Doll, you never showed me nothing but kindness. She would say, I know how sad you get. And some days I still get that way, but it gets better. It gets better. It gets better. Sweetie, it gets better, I promise you. And she'd tell me, your heart is a muscle, the size of your fist. Keep on loving, keep on fighting, and hold on, and hold on. Hold on for your life.
Hi there. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Hecate, and this is Finding Okay, a healing podcast for survivors of sexual assault and any and all abuse. When survivors share, we share strength. You are not alone. Today, I'm excited to share my interview with Monika. Monika is a Polish LGBTQ+ comic artist, and she's best known for her popular series, My Secret Lesbian Comics, which has over 28,000 subscribers on Webtoon. But she also has a side project, which folks may not know about, and it's a comic called Self-Pity Social Club. Monika is a survivor of child abuse and is processing her trauma and finding healing through her work on Self-Pity Social Club. I hope you check it out because art and storytelling is so important and can sometimes help readers or viewers better process and understand their own trauma and experiences just by seeing it expressed visually. Monika and I spoke about her abusive mother, the events that helped her decide to go no contact, and how she's been navigating that within her family. I do want to add some context before we get into it. This interview was recorded in 2024, just as I was halting podcast production and heading into a mental health break that ended up being over a year long. Monika agreed to the interview knowing it would be a while before it aired, but neither of us knew exactly how long. She was so kind and so understanding about the whole thing, and I am still so grateful. So I just wanted you to know about that time gap because there are some moments where we'll talk about the political climate, especially for trans folks, and I need you to know that it's from last year and we're not just deeply out of touch. Also, please know that she's done so much more incredible work since this was recorded, and that you can go check that out and get updates on her story by reading her comics. So, if you're listening and you've ever been in a rough place and had someone be really incredible and patient with you, please know that that was Monika, and please celebrate and reward that empathy and kindness by supporting her work. Now let's get into it. Trigger and content warnings for this episode include the following: child abuse, PTSD, depression, suicide, and strong language. Please check in with yourself and make sure you're all right to continue. If you enjoy the podcast, please consider supporting my work by becoming a Patreon member. Tiers start as low as $1 a month, and membership at any level changes my life. Tier 3 and 4 patrons gain early access to Finding Okay episodes, as well as a supplemental patron podcast called Finding More. Tier 4 patrons get early access to video episodes of both Finding Okay and Finding More. Creating this podcast takes an incredible amount of time, energy, and emotional labor. And so, if you believe what I'm creating has value, and you believe in supporting survivors and compensating them for their labor, please click the link in episode notes to learn more about membership benefits. Finding Okay is funded entirely by the generosity of patrons and listeners like you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. And I wanted to start by asking, are you okay?
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to see you, and I'm pretty good these days. Thank you.
Nice.
Probably better than ever.
What's making it better than ever these days?
Well, just the fact that I don't speak to my mother anymore, and the flying monkeys have finally calmed down with pressuring me into putting her back in my life because all the other family members can admit that she's mental. So they're kind of like, yeah, we understand. So So that's better. And also I realized I should combat stress by just telling myself that art is my main job and my daytime job is irrelevant. So I've been trying to do that and use that to stress less about my daytime job, right? So that's been helpful.
That's wonderful. Those are two huge shifts. So
Mm.
congratulations on both of them. Wow.
Thank you. Well, actually, I haven't been speaking to my mother for over 3 years, so it's not new, but
I mean, the
just in
flying
general.
monkey is calming down. Like that always makes a huge difference.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. There's only one left. I'm shocked it's crazy because it's my dad actually. So he doesn't speak to
Oh,
her because of what she did to me, but he wants me to speak to her. And I'm like, where's
mm.
the logic in that?
Make
Like,
it make
you
sense.
can, yes, if you can stand her, then please don't make me.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is generational. I hear a lot of conversation about like there
Mm,
being this generational shift where older generations have this familial responsibility of like, she's your
mm,
mother or like they're your parent, like you only get one, like you should,
yeah.
the millennials onward tend to be more willing to just be
Mm,
like, no, like you have to treat me well. Or if you
mm.
haven't, you have to take responsibility for that. And if you can't, then you don't get to be a part of my life. Just not a lot of understanding in between the generations in terms of like that's an okay decision to make.
Yes, I do think millennials and younger care much more about mental health, whereas the older generations were just like, well, let's drink beer every day. That's mental health sorted.
Fixed it. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. I think that very much like a different dynamic. I guess maybe it, kind of depends like on like class structure as well, but like a generational mindset of, well, you just
Mm.
work until you die and
Oh,
just
yes.
like yeah, and I think like when you shift away from that and prioritize mental health, I think just a
Mm.
number of shifts generationally. So I think they're all interconnected.
Yes, I'm very interested to see what the world will look like in another 20 years.
Yes, I am as well. Nervous,
Yes.
but interested.
I'm not like I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I live in times where everything is changing at a quick pace. Because I think if I were one of those people in 1600s who were just milking cow their whole life, I would be very bored. But I like
Yeah.
that there's changes. There's always like new technologies, more awareness. So I'm positive
hmm
about the future. I think it will be better.
I like that mindset. Yeah. It's
Hmm.
been hard lately and yeah, like a lot of like big changes, big shifts happening right now, but I completely agree with you. Like
Mm.
I would rather be alive like in modern times rather than any other,
Yeah.
especially being like a femme person or a queer person or
Yes.
yeah, I'm like
Absolutely.
not that it's easier or like completely
Yeah.
like aces all the way, but certainly
Yeah, but at
better
least
than
I'm
it
not
has
gonna,
been.
I'm not gonna get murdered for it, by the
Yeah.
state. So that's a plus.
Yeah. Yeah. Less likely to be murdered for it, I'll say. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Of course, trans minorities still have it bad,
Yeah.
and I do feel for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to mention before talking to you, I just reread like all your work
Oh,
and was
yes.
loving like the more recent stuff too. And just every time I see one of your I love all of it, but
Oh,
every
thank
time
you
I
so
see one
much.
of your comics that is like trans inclusive and affirming or like
Mm,
fuck turfs, I'm like, yes. And it makes me so
yes.
happy. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, I actually consciously doing that on purpose because I do follow every lesbian comic artist I can find, right? And
hmm
I almost never see them mentioning that topic if they're cis. So I'm like, well, but I'm cis, but I have something to say because I have trans lesbian friends. And
hmm
like, why is their life so hard? Like, can
Yeah.
everybody just leave them alone, please? Like,
Yeah. They're
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, the beautiful sapphic women that like deserve to be uplifted and
Mm,
acknowledged, especially like in the
exactly,
circles that
yes,
they're a
yeah.
part of. So like I so
Yes.
appreciate that. Yeah. Awesome.
Yes, I actually feel like I have a conspiracy theory, if you
Mm.
don't mind. I have a conspiracy theory that the governments are pushing the trans hate because it's an easy scapegoat to like this divert the attention, the public's attention from actual issues, like where are
Yep.
our taxes going? Why are the rich people getting richer? And they're like, oh no, look, trans woman using buffer, be angry at that, not at me. I'm convinced this is what's happening.
See, I don't even see that as a conspiracy theory because that
Oh,
is so straight up what's happening, where I'm just sort of like,
oh
no,
God.
like we're not gonna put that in like the same like realm of Bigfoot. That is 100%
Mm,
what's happening right now. Yes.
I see.
Like
Yeah.
trans folks, minorities, like all that hatred is just to, just very much like look over here.
Yes.
And
Yes. Like it used to be like that with gay people, and now it's no longer cool, quote marks, to hate gay people. So they just chose the next scapegoat, and that's horrible.
I can't remember what country you're in right now, because I know that you're Polish. Are
Right.
you in
Yes.
Poland or living in a
So I'm
different
Polish,
country?
but I live in England.
England, okay. I don't know how it is over there right now, but like we've got a whole bunch more just like
Mm,
within this year, I think since like 2024 started. So just a month and I think it's like hundreds of anti-trans bills
mm.
just like hit the deck and it's just like this is obscene and ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I would love if we
Yeah,
could be
we
done
don't
with
have it
this.
easy here. Like, I know a lot of trans women get their estrogen illegally because the waiting list on NHS
Mm.
is like stupidly long. I know the politicians keep mentioning that. And again, I think that's a diversion tactic. Like, oh my God, it's not that big of a deal. Like, why do you care about gender so much? Like, that doesn't matter. Let's have 500 genders. Who cares? Like, get real
Yeah,
problems.
yeah. I just don't, yeah, I don't get like what the problem is. And it like
Mm,
whenever someone says that that thing that's supposed to scare you, like, well, how many genders? And it's just sort of like you can have all of them and just
yes.
like you haven't reached the point in your scary argument where anything is actually hurting anybody. And if you don't
Yes.
make that point, I'm sorry, then the next step is for you just to accept that more people maybe exist than you thought or like in ways that you don't understand and that maybe you just
Mm,
have to learn something new and that's okay and
exactly.
I'll bet you can do it, buddy, if you just
Yeah, I believe in you. Open your mind.
oh my God. But I would love to hear a compliment that you've received and that you've never forgotten.
Right. So it's quite a funny one, actually, because one time here in England, I was at a train station and I was just checking my makeup in a pocket mirror because rarely, but I do wear makeup once in a while. And then some random guy was just like running past. He was like, "Don't worry, you look beautiful." And he ran off.
That's so freaking sweet.
So,
Oh.
so I really appreciate it because, like, well, it was obvious he wasn't like even trying to hit on me. He just wanted to make my day, and I was like, "Oh, bless you, thank you."
I actually love those like drive-by compliments that like require
Yeah,
nothing. You don't have that like pressure of like what are they
mm,
expecting or trying to do, where it's just
exactly.
just like
Yeah,
brightening your day and then leaving and it just makes you really
exactly.
happy. Yeah. Oh,
Like
I love that
compliments
one.
from women, I will take any day, and whichever way they mean it, I will take it. But compliments from men, right away, I'm like, thank you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Is there a hidden contract in here that I don't know about? I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know.
Mm,
Yeah, no, compliments from women are mm, such
way
a
better.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing.
Actually, I
Um,
just had a funny one the other day. So I was clubbing, not this week, but the week before, and we were just pushing. Me and my friends, we were pushing for the crowd. It was very crowdy, and then some random woman. I never spoke to her before. She just grabbed my arm. She was like, "You're beautiful, and I love you." And I was like, "I think she's on drugs." But thank you.
Probably, but that doesn't mean it's not true.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I was like, okay, that made my day.
And what is your favorite color or color combination, and what do you associate with it?
So my favorite color is purple, but I don't associate it with anything specific. I don't know. I just love the hue of it.
Nice. I knew somehow. I knew somehow.
Yes, I was gonna say you read my mind.
The light, I put the light on purple as well, so
Oh,
I knew.
lovely.
All right. I was feeling purple today. And if I had to summon you in a ritual, what five things would I need to place as offerings at each point of the pentacle on the floor?
Yes. So one would be a comic book because I'm obsessed with them. That's my number one thing in life.
Doesn't matter which
Next
one, like
one,
any comic book.
just any manga, comic book, Garfield, whatever. Just like I've been obsessed since I could read, basically. and a figurine of a giraffe because I'm super tall. I'm 5'11", and my friends jokingly will call me like a giraffe or a female titan.
I like that.
And a Polish dumpling because I'm Polish and I really love dumplings. Like whenever I go to Poland, I have to have Polish dumplings. Another one is a postal stamp because one of my most nerdy qualities, I actually collect stamps.
I love
So that would be one of those, yeah. And the last one would be cheese.
What kind of cheese? Any cheese?
Any cheese. I eat them all.
Is there a comic book that you remember? You mentioned you had started reading them like growing up. Is there one that stands out as your favorite growing up as a child that like made you fall in love? For me, it was Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh my God, so good. So good. But I haven't read that as a child. I don't think it was translated to Polish at that point. The one I read back in Poland was Donald Duck. I had like volumes and volumes of it. And I was also obsessed with Garfield. I think because Garfield is a comic strip, that probably really imprinted in me the idea of doing comic strips.
Yeah.
And I have a funny story. So the whole reason I'm a comic artist is because of a misunderstanding. Because when I was a child, right? So I was a young child reading comics. Let's say I was 9 or 10 years old. And then I realized, well, there are no adults around me reading comics. So perhaps it's not allowed for adults to read comics. Oh my God, that's horrible. I don't want to stop reading them. And then I realized, wait a second, but it's not children drawing them. It's the adults drawing them. So if I draw them, I will be allowed to still like them.
I love
So
that.
that's why I became a comic artist, actually.
I love that. That's so beautiful.
Oh, that's so silly. And then, of course, later I realized that's wrong. That thinking is wrong, but it was too late. I was already in.
Oh my gosh. Like I love the logic that's in there.
Mm.
And like, is
I
it
was
is
just
it that they
obsessed.
started drawing it as kids and then into adulthood that made it possible for them to be drawing it for the children and then or is it contraband? Are they not supposed to be drawing the comics? Like I like that. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, so I started drawing comics really early, but at first it was just like I was cutting out characters from Donald Duck, and then I was just sticking them in a notebook and putting my own like story and speech bubbles.
I love that.
So those were my first comics. I was probably like 10.
I remember being obsessed with the idea of the Sunday paper comics.
Yes.
And I remember like drawing my own comics and delivering them to my parents' door, like on Sunday, like outside
that's so
their
cute.
bedroom.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
I would love to know 3 essentials to your self-care as well.
Right. So number one, and I've learned that the hard way through my depression episode. And number one is making time for art, because I just can't be happy if my main daytime job is too tiring, and then I don't have energy for art. Then my mood starts going down and down. So I have to make sure that my energy levels are high enough for a side project as well.
Gotta feed the soul.
Yes, 100%. If I go too long without drawing, I feel like, oh my God, like what am I living for? Like my robot just making money. And then number two, I have a lot of electric massagers. I have a feet massager I use every day. It really helps me relax. You know, it's like a box beneath my desk, and then I put my feet in it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is relaxation time. And number three, also very important, is a good social life, because I'm very extroverted. I'm like maximum on the spectrum between introvert and extrovert. I'm a maximum extrovert. And if I don't hang out socially at least once every 2 weeks, I noticed I start to get sad. So going to work doesn't count, because of course that's not social. It has to be like grabbing a coffee with a friend or something.
I'm an introvert, so I love also like seeing you post on Instagram and stuff and like the places that you're going and the things that you're doing and just sort of like watching the extroverts out at play and just being like, "Ooh, wow. I can't do it,
I do
but
think it's
I
kind
love
of
that they
unusual
do."
for I do think it's kind of unusual for a comic artist, because most of the comic artists are always saying they're introvert.
I love it though, because you collect all these stories from like the
Yes.
places you go, the things you do, the people you meet, the interactions that you have with them. I
Yes.
love your saucy comics and My Secret Lesbian comics.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to hear that. I'm happy to keep drawing it. And I'm happy so many people like it. It definitely got bigger than I expected. I just had this need to document my life, and it's almost like a diary of my existence. So I try to primarily focus on like my dating and lesbian issues and LGBT issues, but I would say like every now and then I'll make a comic about something completely different, just because it's more like a diary than a lesbian manifesto.
What was the driving force behind like starting it? What made you start drawing it?
So actually, it's quite funny, but it's actually because at the time I was working a job that was super chill and I had so much free time. It was an admin job, right? So
Hmm.
I would go to the office every day for like 8 hours, but actually there was maybe 3 or 4 hours of work.
Oh,
And
wow.
between that, I would just like, chill and read my Kindle. And I was like, what, all that time, I want to do something productive with it. So I started bringing my sketchbook to work and like I made up my new comic avatar and I started drawing them at that work because I had so much time.
That's awesome. I had no idea. So it
Yes.
just like happened. I love that.
Yeah, just because I had time and I figured, well, what, it doesn't feel right to just procrastinate for 5 hours a day. Since I have energy, I should just start a comic series.
Well, it's
Mhm.
incredible and I love it so
Thank
much.
you.
I started following like a while ago, I think like because you popped up on my suggested, I think, or I like
From all
saw
base,
something that you had
probably.
posted and
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, "Oh dang, yes, like more like queer comic book artists. I love it. Like I need this."
Mm.
The stories you tell, they're so wonderful. I get such a beautiful dose of like queer joy from reading your comic that is
Oh,
just like
bless.
it just like feeds my soul in such a wonderful way and they're just
Thank you.
wonderful.
That's actually intentional as well. I try to make most of my comics positive and funny because I've heard a lot of people commenting before. Well, maybe not a lot, but a couple of people have commented before that like so many LGBT comics are about sadness and oppression and depression, and of course those
Yeah.
are still great. I read
Yeah.
them as well, but I thought, well, in that case, there's probably people who would like to see the other side. So I try to focus on the silly and funny, and I
Yeah.
exaggerate my character to be more silly and more of a fuckboy, if you will. Well, fuckgirl, I suppose. But I swear it's exaggerated for comedy. I swear I'm not that bad. I just have this side of me that I think of as like Johnny Bravo persona.
I like that a lot.
But I mostly let it out for laughs. Like when I'm obnoxiously hitting on women, it's to make them laugh. It's not to actually try and yeah. So that's also what I draw for my character in the series.
Something else I love about your comic is the sense of just like the sapphic like just how fucking fantastic women are. It just comes
Mm.
through so strongly and just like the love of women,
Oh yeah.
like how beautiful, like smart, funny, just like how many
Mm.
just for the love of women and that comes through and I love that so much.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually very happy at the moment because I just started a new job 3 days ago, and my team is mostly women. I was like, yes, let's go. And they're all like
Oh,
funny and chill. I'm like, oh my God, let's go. Let's hope it's going to be a good one.
congratulations on the new job. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Something I just want to make sure that people are aware is My Secret Lesbian Comics. You have a book out on Amazon that people can
Yes.
buy.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk about that. And I wanted to talk about Patreon so that people
Thank
know
you.
how they can support you. So when did the book get published or made available?
Yeah, that was actually during my depressive episode because my last job I had at the beginning of last year, so a year ago, it was soul crushing. It was too difficult, too hard, and I ended up getting depressed and like rage quitting for suicidal tendencies and stuff. Right? That's exactly the moment when I realized, well, I'm getting depressed because I'm not making enough art because I'm just so tired from my daytime job.
Hmm.
And so, of course, first I had a little rest, but then because I was unemployed for a couple of months by choice, right? First I had a little rest, but then I figured, you know what, there's gonna not gonna be a better time to compile my older comics into a comic book because now I actually have time every day. I can be a full-time artist. And never mind, there's no full-time pay, but it's about it's about satisfaction. So I actually released it, yes, during that depressive episode. And since then, I've drawn quite a lot new comics. So book number 2 will probably be coming out sometime, but I'm not working on it yet. Yeah, and then only recently I started a Patreon. I only started in December 2023. because I realized, first of all, Webtoon Pay is shit. It's so bad. I keep getting 1,000 new Webtoon subscribers every month, new subscribers. So every month my subscriber count goes up by 1,000, and you would think that would be money bags, but it's actually disgustingly cheap, and there's diminishing returns. So the more reviews you get, the less you get paid per view. And I'm like, why? Why does it have to be like that?
Oh, jeez.
So I'll be honest. So that was a reason why I was like, you know what, like Webtoon is just shit. I kind of like, of course, I'm not doing it for money, but I want to make some money on it because it takes so much of my life. So I started a Patreon.
Yeah, you deserve to have your work supported as well.
Thank you. Well, also I had a more pure reason because basically I just had some funny comic ideas for really like erotic and naked comics. And I figured that's not going to go on Instagram. I'm going to get banned. I'm going to get blocked so fast.
You had mentioned that in a strip or something. Yeah, that you have spicy stuff available on the Patreon. So things that were like removed from Webtoon, or that you knew you were not going to be able to share anywhere else. And so if we want the spicy extras, we can support you on Patreon and get those yummy extra comics.
That's it. So the comic strips I draw there, I committed to drawing one extra comic strip a month. They're not like pornographic. That's not my intention. My intention with those is mostly comedy, except, they're naked, or it's more about sex than Instagram can take. But I am working on 18 plus one-shot fantasy lesbian story. Just because I figured, you know what, I want to try drawing porn. Why not? You'll only live once. So I'm working on a one-shot, one chapter kind of fantasy story about like lesbian girlfriends getting laid.
I love that. And so people will be able to find that on like the Patreon, yeah?
Yeah, eventually, yeah. It's still going to be a long time because unfortunately, as I mentioned, I found a new job. So unfortunately, I'm a full-time employee again, which will slow down my porn progress. But I'll try my best. Maybe I can do it by the end of this year, hopefully. But it will be on Patreon one day.
Oh, that's awesome. Our jobs get in the way of porn. I'm sorry.
I know. I wanted to draw porn, like, please. Now I gotta make money. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Capitalism sucks.
I'm not arguing. Yeah. Oh, geez. So if you're comfortable shifting focus, I wanted to talk about the other comic that you created, Self-Pity Social Club. What made you decide to start drawing that, and what is that about?
I started it before the depressive episode, but I was already headed there, if you will. So I was not in a very good headspace, and I figured, you know what? I love expressing my feelings for comics. I should try that on a negative side. But my main series, as I mentioned, I wanted to be like positive and happy and just to make people laugh. So I just started a second series called Self-Pity Social Club, and it's on Webtoon as well. And funnily enough, I don't advertise it anywhere. It's more of a secret project. But of course, today the secret gets revealed. So yeah, it doesn't have half as many followers as the main series. And it's more of it's really sketchy, really quick, just power my feelings out on the paper. Well, straight onto the computer, actually. And then I make it very dynamic, very energetic and kinetic, just to express my feelings rather than worrying about, getting the anatomy right or, getting the composition right. This is purely like an emotional project.
Mm-hmm. I love how just pure and gestural it is, and your use of color was just really expressive.
Thank you.
Gosh, the one of the ones that really jumps out to me, you really you get across like these kind of like PTSD moments and just like how they feel or how they're experienced like in your mind or in your body. And one of the ones that really like just you visually just got it across so beautifully was the when you're watching a movie and like a triggering scene comes up and you just like you showed just like that like dissociative glitch so perfectly, and I really related really strongly to that.
Thank you, that's good to hear. Actually, I'm sure at least one or two people commented on that, saying they also think that I portrayed it very well.
It was perfect.
So that's good. I was just yeah, that was super triggering scene. It was a child abuse scene in Moon Knight, which was a very good TV show. Overall, I enjoyed it. But then the main character suffered from an abusive mother, And I'm like, oh, that hits too close to home.
Yeah.
And then she was like banging on his door with a belt. And I was like,
Oh, and
yikes.
you had mentioned belts specifically being a trigger for you as well in another strip.
Yes, unfortunately, that's the case. So I'm fine most of the time. Like, I don't get triggered much. I don't have many triggers, but belts specifically, yeah, like the sound of the metal part of the belt clanking. Yeah. I've had a situation before. Like, I'll just explain the situation from the comic where somebody was undressing behind me, so out of my sight, and I heard that clank of the metal part, and I just got a PTSD flashback from when my mother, because my mother had a collection of belts on her closet, and she would hang them on like inside the closet on a metal bar. So whenever she opened that closet, they would jingle, and I would know, well, that's what's going to happen next. Well,
Yeah.
so the expecting of pain is almost worse than the pain itself, because I know it's coming and I know there's nothing I can do to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I heard, well, in my adult life, years after, when I heard that jingle behind me, I think that was like one of the few, but the first PTSD attack I had. Although I'm not qualified to properly describe it myself and say whether or not it was a PTSD, but it looks like it. But yeah, basically I just froze and I covered in sweat, and all the different alarms went off in my head. It's like there were 10 cars going off and 10 kettles going off, and I just got sweaty for no reason, and I couldn't make the alarms stop. And yeah, that was quite hardcore. After that, I was like, whoa, thanks.
Was that something that happened before you started drawing the comic, or something that happened along the way?
Yeah, so that was years before, back when I was still in the closet and dating men. So actually, the person taking off the belt was my ex-boyfriend. But that was years ago. For a long time, I just shuffled all my trauma into a closet, and I just did the best to not think about it. And I didn't want to admit that anything's wrong. And it took me until like I was 25 to slowly start realizing and accepting that my childhood was not very good. Because of course, children don't have a frame of reference. So I just assumed, oh, this is normal. Everybody's got home life like this.
Yeah.
And even though I moved out of house 1 month after high school, and I moved all the way to England, I didn't really connect that to the fact that I'm just running away. Even though some of my aunts were like, Monika, it seems like you're just running away. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? My life is great. But I was just very comfortable being 1,000 miles away from my mother and seeing her on my terms. So that's, and also I noticed even then, I remember, because I moved right after high school, right? And I noticed quite quickly that I don't miss her ever. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. What's happening there? So yeah. But it took me until like 25 to start realizing that something's even wrong. And sometimes like just the comments people say, and I'm like, is that how parents act? Like there's so many things where I'm not even aware what normal mother is supposed to act like. And it's kind of crazy. So if I may give an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my grandmother passed away during COVID. So I think that was early 2021. And I was in England, she was in Poland. I couldn't attend the funeral. Because of course back then we had all the restrictions, right? And I wouldn't have made it in time.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. It's all right. So even though at that point I already had cut off my mother, but I think specifically in that moment she wasn't blocked or anything, right? Because there's different periods of time when I block her, unblock her, and we share a family chat together, so she can always reach me on the family chat because I just want to be part of the family still, so I'm not quitting that one. So she could have reached me, but then one of my friends was like, oh, did your mother like reach out to you about your grandmother dying and you being sad? Because it's not her mother who died, it's the grandmother on my father's side. And I was like, no, why would she do that? And I was so confused. And then my friend was like, what are you talking about? Of course she should care that you're sad that your grandmother died. And I'm like, she should? It just never occurred to me, like, oh, is that how people operate? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't really diagnose people, but from what I've read and heard on podcasts, I suspect she's narcissistic because she seems to see herself as the center of the world, and she doesn't care about anybody else's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very manipulative. And I have one sister, and when we lived with her as children, she made us compete for her love. For me and my sister, it's very sad actually. We used to like really dislike each other because we were always competing. We were always telling on each other. I was the so-called good daughter. She was the so-called bad daughter, which, of course, it's fucked up in the first place that my mother would make it so obvious that she prefers one of us. And even though I was the so-called good daughter, I still have so many bad memories. So yeah, it's quite difficult. Only after I moved out and I gained some distance, I was able to start having a relationship with my sister. And I'm very grateful for that. And we try to stay in touch now and talk, and we hang out every time I go to Poland because I do love my sister. I want us to be close. It's just a shame that it took us until our 20s to be able to feel that way.
The perspective that we gain as we become adults is just so different, and the relationships that maybe weren't possible when we were younger become more possible down the line. And I'm so glad that you're able to connect with your sister and have that relationship now. Yeah.
Yes, I'm really happy. And also my sister is still in touch with our mother. She's kind of like restricting it. Like she never gives them money because our mother is horrible for using people for money. She's so selfish. And but still, my sister does want to keep her in her life. So she also like gives me updates sometimes about like the new fucked up shit our mother done. So I suppose that's a bonding experience, at least. Like we can complain about her together.
The financial thing seemed to be a very important theme when I was reading your comic strip.
Yes, actually, that's weirdly her manipulative side is something I'm more traumatized about than the physical abuse. Because like she stopped physically abusing me when I was about 15, and I feel like I could have gotten past it, but it's more the emotional and the financial abuse that made me realize I think she's just a bad person. Which of course took me years to get to terms with. So she's just so manipulative, and ever since I cut her off, it's well, I'll get to it later. But there was one big event. Well, you've read it in the comic. One big event that made me cut her off, and then ever since then, it's like she dropped her mask, so other people also know that she's messed up, manipulative, lying, stealing, like. So now she's like the black sheep of the family. So at least I'm grateful for the fact that the rest of the family believes me because they can see like her mask is gone for some reason. But yeah, she just keeps using everyone, and she doesn't want to work, and she wants everybody else to support her, and she like expects it and demands it for no reason. It's really weird. Yes. So I moved out right after high school, right? I'll get from the beginning. So I moved out right after high school, and I moved to England, and I went to college. So I was studying full time, college first, and university, and I was working on the weekends, minimum wage, McDonald's. So you can imagine I was not making a lot of money. I also had student loans in England, and I was making the weekend money. Back at the time, I didn't have the comic series, so I wasn't making no money from other. But still, she got it in her head that because I live in England, I'm rich and I'm supposed to take care of her financially. She was working full time. I don't know how it happened. So first of all, she was receiving child benefit because my parents are divorced. So she was receiving child benefit for me for like up to 25, yeah? But at some point she said, oh, it doesn't come anymore because you're abroad. It doesn't count. Sorry. And then months later, I found out that's a lie. She was still receiving my child benefit and she was just keeping it to herself. And that's just so mind-boggling to me as an adult. Like you have a child alone abroad working minimum wage 2 days a week and you don't want to help them out and you steal from them? Because the child support money was legally meant for me. And she just lied that it's not coming to keep it for herself. So my father was furious when he found out, and then he stopped paying it. And yeah, that's it. But still, that was not the point when I cut her off. I forgave her that. And then she's so manipulative in ways like she manipulates people with pity. That's a really big thing in my mother's life. She always manipulates people like, oh, I'm the poorest, I'm the saddest, I'm whatever, my life is so bad. And she will manipulate your feelings into feeling bad for her. And she's trying to steer it so that you will offer to buy her stuff, which is also quite crazy. But yeah, it took me a long time to realize she's using me like that for my money, which I didn't have. And I just, so somehow I felt responsible financially for my mother, which is crazy. She was the one with full-time income, and I was the one with Mackey's, McDonald's. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I ended up like buying her furniture because her bed was bad. She would like complain to me that, oh, my vacuum cleaner broke, and I would buy her a new one. Or whenever I went to visit Poland, her fridge was empty, so I would take pity on her and I would cover the groceries for the whole time of my visit. Until one day, my sister told me that actually, normally the fridge is full, and she just empties it before you come over.
That
Was one of
that
the
story
most
was like crazy to me. That
was one of the most mind-fucking moments of my life. I was like, what do you mean? That point was before I started to realize there's something wrong. So I was like, why? She's manipulating me into buying her groceries.
Mhm.
I couldn't comprehend it. It was just so crazy.
Well, and all that other stuff, I can see that it would just be this like insidious, or you might be able to like excuse it more and more in your head, or just be like, well, maybe she doesn't realize like how she's acting, or like maybe she didn't mean to do that, or maybe she's not aware of it. But like removing the groceries from your own fridge in order to trick your child that's visiting into thinking that you don't have food so that they'll buy you food. That's like you are removing groceries from your fridge. Like you can't tell me that you don't know what you're doing.
Um, yeah, I imagine maybe she was just like scheduling it so she would stop buying groceries at a certain point before I visit or something like that. And it's like,
Wow.
what the fuck? Who acts that way? I like, even not as a family member, but as a host. If I have like a guest from Poland coming over for a week, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
you make
take them
sure you
out for
can
a
feed
meal.
them.
Yes,
You're right. Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, what milk do you prefer? Should I buy soy milk? Should I buy regular milk? Do you like coffee? Do you like tea? I'll be standing on my head to make sure they have everything they want,
You're
even as
right.
a host. And it's
Yes.
like, why would you go the other way? And then I told that story to my good aunt. So in my comic series, she's called Aunt B. So my mother has two sisters. One of her sisters, Aunt A, she's a cunt. I cut her off as well. And then Aunt B is the only good one in the whole family. There's something wrong with women in that family. They're all fucked up. Aunt B is the only good one. And and we talk about my mother quite a lot, right? Because of course she knows her very well as well. And she told me some bad stories from her perspective as well. So I told her that, and she was like, "Oh, but your mother would borrow money from me anytime you came to visit for you." And I'm like, "Oh my fucking god!" She was playing us both, just and working full time. Can you imagine? She's just disgusting. She's just disgusting. I just can't understand. And all the people around her keep helping her out so much, right? Because she's very close to her sisters and her mother. And she just bites the hand that feeds her. I'll give you another example. So after her mask dropped, right, she quit work, and she was like, saying she's too depressed to work and whatever. And then, so her sister, again, the good aunt, Aunt B, she found her a job cleaning houses privately because that's what my aunt does. Yeah. So she basically helped her get some money. And then, as a repayment, my mother tried to bite her out of a gig. She was like, "Oh, you're gonna hire my sister to clean your house. I'll do it cheaper than her."
Mm.
Can you even imagine that? So that's how she repaid her sister for getting her a job.
That's
It's
pretty
just
low.
it's just unthinkable. I don't understand. So that's why I'm pretty sure she thinks she's the center of the world. Nobody else's feelings matter.
Hmm.
I just find it hard to comprehend how can somebody be that selfish.
It's baffling and painful to also just figure out, like, especially when it's a parent and someone who was, like as you find out later in life, it's like, oh, you were supposed to be the safest person. And
Yes.
and yet,
Yes. I'll tell you
yeah.
another funny story. So her sister A got cancer, but it's fine. She's healed now, right? But a couple of years ago, she got cancer, unfortunately. And then my mother said to her, "You only got cancer for attention?"
What the fuck?
I know, right? What the fuck? I just don't comprehend how she's thinking. It's beyond
I
me.
that's like really that's really fascinating. I was just doing a thing where I was like rehashing a history that I had with somebody in my life that had like narcissistic
Mm.
tendencies. And I was talking specifically about like pain and illness and the way that it's like perceived by others. And I was using this person as an example where I had had an experience with them where I had been ill and their first thought was, you're doing it for attention. And that's like a really interesting parallel, like, because what I was saying was like, that makes, if that's your assumption right off the bat, is that when somebody's sick, they're
Mm.
doing it for attention, that's the indicator that you are the bad person. Because that's a
Mm,
shitty
absolutely.
assumption. Now that you tell that story, it also just makes me think like that it just reflects your perspective on the universe, which is like everything revolves around me. If somebody else has something happening that
Yes.
is detracting from
Yes.
my spotlight, that
Oh,
like anything
100%.
interesting, illness or pain being interesting,
Mm,
like, or a tool of interest, like if it occurs to
yes.
someone else, then it is like just like this completely skewed perspective.
Yes. There's actually another similar story because I remember a while ago she told me she has brain tumor. And then because again she liked to get people with PT. And then and then she never mentioned it again and it's not a thing. And I'm like, did she ever have it? I don't think she did ever had it. I think she was lying straight up just for like the PT points. She's so obsessed with getting PT from people.
Fake brain tumor is like next level. Holy shit.
It's like, why would you even lie about it? Like, obviously, people are gonna notice you're not going to operations or anything. Like, the
Okay.
fuck? I swear.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
So, talking about
Okay.
speaking spotlight, that's actually a good
Holy shit.
segue to go
Wow.
into the main story that made me cut
Yeah.
her off.
Yeah.
Because I think part of it was about spotlight as well. Because she did something horrible on my sister's wedding day. And part of me believes that was for the spotlight because she hated not being the main character. So my sister got married, right, in 2020. So at that point, I was fully aware that my mother is manipulative and I don't want to send her money anymore, but I was still trying to save the relationship. So she called me about 2 weeks before the wedding, right? I was still in England. And she started trying to manipulate me into sending her money for clothes for the wedding. She was like, "Oh, I have nothing to wear. Nothing good to that fits me." And I'm like, "Well, wear an old dress." I'm wearing an old dress. And then she was like, "Oh, no, but I gained weight. Nothing fits me anymore." She wanted me to offer to buy her a dress, basically. She
Yeah.
always does that, right? But I was, at that point, I was fully aware, so I was not buying it. I was like, "Well, you can borrow a dress from one of your sisters. I'm going in an old dress. Why should I give you money for you to have a
Yeah.
new dress?"
So many
And she was like,
solutions,
"Well,
so many options.
so many options. Go to a second-hand shop, buy one for £2." And then she was like, "Oh no, but I'm the bride's mother. Everybody will be looking at me." And I'm like, "No, everybody will be looking at the bride, and everybody knows you're broke, so they're not gonna hold it against you if you're wearing an old dress. But also, nobody knows if it's an old dress or not. Nobody remembers all the dresses you have.
Yeah.
First of all, that's a faulty argument to make." So I refused, and then she kept pushing me. So I just lost it, and I just told her straight, "Listen, I know what you're doing. I don't want to be your wallet anymore. I'm sick of being your sponsor. I'm trying to save our relationship, but I need you to stop asking me for money because I know you're using me for money, and I want to have a good relationship with you. But if that can happen, then I'm not sending you money anymore."
Mm.
And she wasn't happy, but she agreed. So that was 2 weeks before the wedding, right? So shortly after I went to Poland. And back then, whenever I went to Poland, I stayed at her place because she has a spare room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my sister already moved out by that point. So that's why she had a spare room. So the wedding day came, and the wedding spot was only 10 minutes from the house, walking distance, right? But she was late. First of all, she was late to her daughter's wedding. So I think, okay, that's a spotlight thing, isn't it? Yeah. And then I just avoided her the whole party because, like I said, at that point, I knew she's toxic, and I'm like, oh, I just don't want to play her games. So the whole party, like, I avoided her. It was actually, I got very drunk. I had a great time. It was a great wedding. And then the next morning, I woke up about 10 a.m. So it was already bright out. My first ever hangover as well.
Oof.
I survived. And then the way her house is laid out, my guest room was as far away as possible from her bedroom. So I would normally steer that way. But it's like she left me breadcrumbs for me to follow because she wanted me to go to her room. So even though it was already bright out, I go out of the guest room and it's the bathroom and the light is on. And that already switches a red flag in my head, like, why is the light on at 10 a.m.? It's bright. And then next up is the kitchen. Again, the light is on. So I go into the kitchen and there's sleeping clothes spilled all over the counter. And at that point, I'm like, I don't know about this. Something's not right here. So the next on my path was the living room. And she left a suicide letter and an empty bottle of vodka on top of it. Right? So she just wrote a short letter, something like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. And she put an empty bottle of vodka, implying that she drank it all with the pills. So yeah, that was a hard comic. That's actually quite a recent comic I drew in that series. Mm-hmm. And I just froze for, I don't know how long. I was like, oh my God, should I go into her bedroom? Should I not? Should I just call the ambulance right away? But there was some sound coming from her bedroom. So I thought, well, maybe I should check it out. I don't want to call the ambulance if nothing happened. So I went in. And again, for the manipulator's perspective, there were our childhood movies playing on the TV. I think that's a manipulative move as well, looking back. And then she was on the bed, like unconscious and not responding. So I went upstairs to get her mother, my grandmother, and we called the ambulance. And that was a very traumatic day for me. And I was like panicking and wailing and freaking out, like, why? Even if she felt that way, I'll admit, selfishly, I thought, why would she do it now when I'm here? I only visit Poland twice a year. That's weird timing. And also, why, like, on her daughter's wedding day? So that's why I think that's part of stealing the spotlight, right? Because suddenly the next day was all about her. Of course, everybody knew in the family. The ambulance took her. So her sisters came around and they stayed with me and we were talking about it. And my mother went to the hospital with her mother. And so me and her sisters, we were talking, we were trying to figure out, like, what happened? She seemed quite normal yesterday. What happened? And then Aunt A, the mean one, but she's always been mean. She's a bad person as well. Even though I was clearly traumatized because I was the one who found her like that, right? I couldn't eat. I couldn't, like, sit straight. I was just, like, fucked up. And even though I was in that state, she started throwing accusations saying it's my fault. And I was like, and then Aunt B, the nice one, she started telling her off, like, shut up, what are you saying? What's wrong with you?
It's an awful thing to say to somebody.
Oh, I know, right? So yeah, so that was quite heavy as well. And her arguments were weak as well. Oh, it's because I forgot to mention, it's because when the paramedics came and they started shaking her, right? My mother, she started making those disgusting sounds like she wants to puke, but she can't.
Yeah.
And then the first thing she said was, it's because my daughters don't love me. Which again, I think was a deliberate. Well, now I think it was deliberate, but in the moment I was like, what the fuck? Because it's true we don't love her, but like we have good reasons not to love her. Like,
so sorry.
Like we were still trying to have a relationship with her and stuff, right? But it's true we don't love her. I'm sorry, but it's true. So yeah, so that's why my Aunt A was like, this is all your fault. It's because you weren't there for her when she was depressed, whatever. Which again, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm the child. I shouldn't be my mother's emotional clutch. I don't even live in the same country. She has all of you because my family is big. She has all the rest of the family with her in Poland. Meanwhile, I'm in England alone with no one, right? No family support. Mm-hmm. And I'm the one who's responsible for her depression. Like, please. So yeah, so that day I decided, you know what, I think I'm going to cut off Aunt A. She's gone too far. She's gone too far. I knew right away, like, oh, this is not the right thing to say to someone who found their mother after a suicide attempt. And then I couldn't stay in that house anymore. So I grabbed my things and I stayed with Aunt B. And yeah, it was a hard couple of days. And then we got, like, I think the next day or two, we got a message from the hospital that they did the thing where they took everything out of her stomach, right? I forgot what the word is. and they found no pills. So she just spilled the pills, drank herself senseless, and called it a day. I think maybe she wasn't expecting us to actually call the ambulance, because clearly she was gonna. Well, now I know she would have just woken up. She was just drunk, and the pills were just, a manipulation. So the hospital told us a couple of days later there were no pills, and she wasn't picking up the phone from anybody. She wasn't responding to any messages. At that point, I was like, you know what? At that point, I realized, okay, she's playing me. She's just angry with me because I said outright that I'm not going to be your sponsor anymore. I don't want to send you money anymore.
Yeah, you set a
so
healthy boundary.
Imagine that. And then, of course, as a punishment, or I think maybe not as a punishment, but maybe she was again trying to do an extreme pity bait, I call it, where I'm like, oh, now I feel so bad for you because you're depressed and suicidal. I'm going to start sending you money again. I think that was her intention. But also probably like part of it was stealing spotlight from my sister on her big day.
Yeah. When I read your comic, I read that timeline and I was so focused on that experience for you, like finding her and what you went through, that I like, even though you had said that it was the wedding and you set that up, like I just didn't even think about the fact that she had done that the day after her other daughter's wedding, and like what, like
same day, same
just
night.
how absolutely wild that is. And it's just,
yes, it is crazy. I do think she's crazy for attention. She does and says crazy things quite a lot. So basically, my mother was in the hospital for a couple of days. We knew it was a fake suicide. She wasn't responding to any messages, right? But she knew what day I'm flying back to England. And she texted me like the day before. And the first thing she texted me was, "Are you feeding the cat?"
are you feeding the cats?
Yes, I know. I told my cousin, because at the time my cousin was nearby, and my cousin just laughed in an angry way. He was like, "No, tell her it fucking died."
Oh, jeez.
Like, which of course was not true, because her mother lives there. I'm sure her mother was feeding the cat. But the point is, why is that the first thing you're saying? Oh my God. Anyway, so I told her, no, I couldn't stay in that house anymore. I'm not there anymore. And actually, as a side note, I haven't been to that house since then, because to me it's cursed. I don't want to cross that footstep anymore.
A really traumatic thing to have happened. Yeah.
So because of my response, she realized that I'm upset, which I think it's crazy. I think it shows that she never considered she might have upset me, like in a sympathetic way. So she was never going to be sympathetic about me going through the traumatic experience of finding her like that, right? So that's my point. And then because she realized that I'm angry and I'm traumatized and I moved out, then she started doing the manipulation, the usual pity bait, as I call it, where she sent me like, she's done it so many times before. Once in a while, she would send me this very long chat essay saying, "Oh, I'm such a bad mother. I know you deserve better. You would be happier if you cut me out of your life. I'm sorry, I'm such a burden." Like a really long essay in that. And she said that a couple of times before. Well, multiple, to me and to my sister. And then, of course, I would always do the normal response of like, "No, you're a good mother. I love you.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's all fine. Here, have another £100, And so, of course, I kept doing that, except for this time. I realized she's just, playing me. I decided already I'm cutting her off. So I said, "Yes, I agree with you. I will be happier without you, and I don't want to hear from you anymore." And I think it's hilarious in a black humor way that her mask dropped right away. She just dropped the mask right away, even though a minute ago she was writing this emotional essay about being a bad mother, right? As soon as I said it, she was like, "No, you can't do that. I'm depressed. It's not my fault." So I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe she just dropped the mask instantly. So all these times she was telling me, "Please cut me out of your life. You will be happier." She never meant it. Because the one time I agreed, she backtracked right away. She was like, "No, you cannot do that. It's not my fault. I'm depressed. Feel
That's
pity for
not
me."
what you're supposed to do when I say that.
Yes. Right. And that was like the final straw that confirmed in my head that she's just manipulative. Because up to that point, I'll admit I had some doubt. I was thinking, okay, maybe she is depressed. Maybe she was sad at the wedding for some reason. Maybe I'm being a bad daughter by planning to cut her off after her fake suicide thing. Yeah, maybe she needs my help or whatever. But that moment when her mask dropped, I was like, okay, that's it. She's a bad person. I'm cutting her off. So yeah, that was over 3 years ago. And like I mentioned, we share a family group chat, but because there's a lot of people there, she usually refrains from writing emotional essays, although sometimes she will. Sometimes she will be like, oh, Monika, please, when you come to Poland, stay with me. I miss you so much. And then everybody else is like, don't do that. But yeah, I blocked her privately, so she cannot message me privately. Although, unfortunately, I did have to unblock her a couple times because there was like paperwork for the house or whatever. So there was reason to unblock her. And the couple times that I did see her, she still tried to manipulate me. It's so bad. Like one time we had to meet up like a year later for some legal paperwork stuff, right? So I just met her in town, her and my sister, and we went to the lawyer to sign something. And in the waiting room, she launched her PT bait right away. She was like, oh, don't worry, Monika, about like supporting me when I'm old, because as soon as I pay off my debts, I'm gonna kill myself. You know, like right away.
Wow.
But I know it's a bait. I know it's a
That
bait.
was like both barrels. Just holy shit.
Yes. And me and my sister were just rolling our eyes because at that point we're fully aware she doesn't mean it. For one thing, she's too narcissistic to kill herself. She's not that. She's probably in a ripe old age, and then when she's retired, she's gonna sue my sister and I for like alimony or whatever it is, where you have to pay benefits from your parents. We expect that to happen.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, that's crazy. There's one more story I wanna say, which is more about my sister. But it's okay, I have her permission to talk about it. So my sister was the assigned bad child, right? Which I think is also common in narcissistic households, if I'm not mistaken. Like you assign the scapegoat and
yeah,
the
like
child.
The scapegoat child. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So that was my sister. So it's actually quite funny because my sister and I, we disagree on who had it worse. I think she had it worse. She thinks I had it worse, which kind of shows how bad it was. So there was a point where I was in secondary school and my sister was in primary school, where my sister was changing for PE and somebody noticed the marks on her body, right? Like the belt marks on her back. So somebody approached like the school psychiatrist and they started a whole case about child abuse. And we actually had a police case about being taken away from our mother for abuse, right? So we spoke to the police separately and all that. But of course, like Poland is a very religious conservative country, so they were not that forward thinking back then. So they just told my sister, oh, if you're just behaving better, she's gonna stop hitting you. So that didn't happen. Well, I mean, us being taken away didn't happen. And also, crazy thing, even though she had a police case for hitting her, she didn't stop hitting her. She still beat her after, which, for one thing, I'm sorry to say, I think my mother just has a low IQ. I think she's just stupid as well as abusive.
Okay. I'm glad you said it because I felt bad, like being the one to just
No, you can say anything.
And also I do hear that that's kind of the fear that is instilled with children who are abused of it being discovered or it being reported, because if the report doesn't go all the way with the child being removed, then that fear of like, then I'm going to be punished for the trouble of the police involvement or the report existing.
Yeah.
And just like that being a whole problem.
Yeah. And there is one more crazy story about that, right? So we lived in poverty. That was after my parents divorced. We were only raised by my mother, my sister and I. My mother, we lived, the three of us, right? No father figure. Well, my father was, visiting and all that. But anyway, he was separate. We lived in poverty. We literally got like donation food in our fridge. That was like food from European Union fund, whatever. Like it had that kind of stamp on it, right? Mm-hmm. And then after the police case thing, I think 100% just to manipulate my sister into feeling bad, she said to my sister, who was, how old could she have been? She was maybe like 13 at the time. She said to her, oh, I was going to adopt a third child, but because of you, because you reported me to the police, now I cannot adopt and it's your fault.
That's fucked up.
Well, first of all, that's fucked up. Second of all, that cannot even be true because as a single mother making barely any money, nobody would let her adopt a child. That's not how adoption works.
That doesn't make any sense.
That was a complete lie. But of course, my sister was 13. Why would you even say something like that? I just
And also like even if adopting were possible, it's just a total shift of responsibility because like because you had marks on your body and someone noticed, like
yes.
it's your responsibility to just sort of like, I love how we skip over the fact that you beat your children and that that's your decision and your fault.
Yes, she's just messed up on so many levels. That's all the main stories I wanted to get off my chest. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like, thank you. Hearing all these stories and just making connections with the comic strip that I've been reading, and like it adds so much context. Honestly, that's why I started the podcast, is so that survivors can connect, so that we can talk to each other and hear from each other. Everything helps in terms of healing, whether it's, you know, like working with professionals or reading books or anything like that. But why I started doing this was I noticed that the conversations that I was having with friends who had shared experiences, whether it was with abuse or sexual assault, and that connecting with them and hearing somebody else share an experience that had any similarity with your own, and just kind of sharing with each other, because there is just like this really important aspect of sharing with other human beings, whether you know they're friends or you know, like someone that I connected with, you know, new in the world, like you, like to hear from another human being and to know that you're not alone, and then to make connections and say like, oh, me too.
Yes.
That's really important. And I think survivors learn so much from each other, and we all just kind of like pool our knowledge and our experiences and help each other process what has happened in our own lives, and then
Yes.
heal and in whatever way is best, because healing is so completely unique to each individual person, not just because their experiences are unique in their lives, but because like different things will help different people. And so like hearing from different people in terms of like what's useful, what's helpful, like what works for you. And so I like, that's why I started doing this, is just to have the conversations. So I'm all about
Yes, that's a really
conversation.
great project. Yes, a really great project. I'm sure your
Thank you.
episodes have helped a lot of people.
Thank you.
And I especially enjoyed your episode with Obelisk.
I was so excited that she said yes. I'm so excited
Yes.
that you reached out. And
Yeah, she's great. She's great.
yeah, it's been really exciting too, like getting to talk to people from other countries. That's been like a relatively new thing, because it started with more like people that I knew at first, and then branching out more and more and getting to connect with people like across the world has just been a really exciting development. So yeah.
I want to say on a slightly more like selfish note, but I think I'm justified. Another way that talking about my experiences helps me is because other people reassure me that I'm not the crazy one, and my mother is a cunt.
That
Because
is like,
of course, at first I wasn't sure if I'm just like, am I exaggerating? Is this like a normal childhood? Should I shut up? And then I draw those comics, and then I actually love it. I know it's kind of sick, but I love it when people comment that, oh, your mother's a cunt, I hate her. I
yeah,
love it
no,
because that's
it's
reassuring
super
to me.
validating.
Validating, that's the word, yes.
No, it like it really does help an immense amount to just be like, yeah, so this happens, and have someone else say, that's really fucked up. You're like, you're right. It is. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's like an incredibly important part of it. And it feels weird, but it is. It helps you put it into perspective, and a
Yes.
part of abuse is just this constant process of them manipulating how you see them and how you
Yes.
just understand the dynamic. And it's really difficult to start to shift that over time, to be like, that was unacceptable, or that was inappropriate, or this is a healthy boundary. And you
Yes.
constantly question yourself after years and years and years of conditioning. And so it's really helpful to have that outside perspective of someone say, like,
Exactly.
just validate that, like, that was unacceptable. You deserved better. Yeah, without that, you're just in your own head, and you'll be fighting yourself sometimes. Like I still do it. years since I've exited certain situations with certain people, and just every so often I'm like, am I just crazy? Maybe like,
Yes.
you'll still
Am I
have those
exaggerating?
moments. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'm like, am I just being a cunt? Am I exaggerating? Should I
Yeah.
talk to my mother again? And then I
Yeah.
hear some news story of what she did, and I'm like, okay, she's still a cunt. She's still a bad person. It's just
Yeah.
because now because the whole family knows, right? Basically, that day when I found her, that day was the day when the dam broke, and I ended up telling everyone everything. I just couldn't hold it in anymore. So now everybody knows in the family about like our childhood and how fucked up. So they just come to me with like new stories of another fucked up thing she done. And I'm like, well, yeah, still I can't.
You had kind of mentioned that like her mask had dropped more with the family.
Yes.
And was that when that happened? When you told
Yes,
everybody
yes.
all this information, she just like didn't see a
Actually,
point in it anymore? Or like, how do you think?
maybe. Yeah, maybe that's it. Or maybe it was just the fake suicide thing in general. I'm not sure. But like actually, yeah, the way you put it, that does make sense. Maybe she knew. Maybe she found out that I'm telling people. But again, because I don't think she's intelligent, she just decided to stop bothering with the mask.
She couldn't manipulate
Money.
the information that everybody had anymore. Because like controlling what everybody is aware of is like a huge
Yes.
important part of that. And if you took away
Mm.
some of that control, maybe that
I
shifted
suppose
the
maybe it's not
game.
just me, but maybe also because the whole family knew that there were no pills in her stomach. So
That's
they all
that's a
knew it
game
was
changer.
fake. That's a game changer. So she's still the same. She still tries to pity bait people. Once in a while, she'll message me like one of her essays if she's not blocked, but now she's blocked again. And then I just wish she wouldn't be shameless enough to do it publicly on the family chat. Or at first, I was avoiding all the family unions, right? Because I couldn't stand to see her. But now it's been 3 years, and I'm like, okay, why should I miss out on great family parties? If there's gonna be like 30 plus people there, I can just avoid her. I can just be civil about it and be like, yes, hello, how you doing? Bye. You know, like pretend we're neighbors or something. So I've been trying to do that, but still she keeps pulling some weird shit every time. She's so weird. So the last time I saw her in person, right? So it was June 2023, and there was this massive family party in the countryside, 50 people, all family. So like, you know, all the cousins, aunts, drinking, dancing. It was great. And I figured, yeah, that's enough people. I can easily avoid her. And then she's so weird. She just started acting like a paparazzi towards me. She was following me with her phone like that, recording me openly. So yeah, she doesn't
Like the
bother
whole
pretending
time?
anymore. Well, no, not the whole time to be fair, but that was closer to the end, and that was maybe like for half an hour. But still, I realized because I was dancing on the dance floor, yeah, and then I realized she's recording, and I thought, oh no, I don't want to be in your video, cunt. So I moved behind the tree because this is happening like on the countryside outside, yeah. So I moved behind the tree, and then she moved to have me in the frame again, and this happened like well, the first time I was like, well, that could be a coincidence. But then she did it 2 more times. I was like, okay, she's just taking the piss. She's specifically targeting me with her camera. And, well, people, of course, wouldn't care to notice, but it's going to be obvious when she posts that video, which she did. So I just moved 3 times. And then I was like, oh, I don't feel like dancing anymore. She's ruining it for me. So I walked away. I went and I sat by the bonfire and I started talking to people instead. And she sat opposite me in the same bonfire and she kept recording me, just talking to other people. And I was like, okay, she's just
Do you
her
think
mask
she
is
was
gone. She
trying
just
to like
doesn't.
antagonize you or get you to like act out towards her? Like, that's so
I,
weird.
I don't know. I think maybe she was hoping for like. I think she was playing it like, oh, I miss my daughter so much. I'm such a good mother. If I can only see a glimpse of my daughter, I'm gonna make this moment last forever. Something like that, you know. Because I miss my daughter so much. Because I'm such a good mother. Something like that. That's how I see it.
Fucking yikes.
But yeah, that was really stressing me out because, of course, I went there thinking that, well, she's not gonna pull anything off in front of 50 people, surely. And then she did, and I just started sweating. Like, what's she doing? What's she gonna do next? Because that's the thing with crazy people. I never know the next step. And then the next day, she was missing for a bit, and my aunt, her sister, was getting nervous that she's gonna do it again. You know, like
Mm,
another suicide attempt, just because I'm there and I wasn't paying attention to her,
mm.
something like that. But no, in the end, it was fine. She didn't do anything that night.
Jeez.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
following
wild.
you around recording you, that was not what I expected. I don't know what I expected, but that
What
was
the
not
fuck?
it.
Like,
That was so
I did
odd.
not expect that.
No.
I did not expect that. Because at this point, she stopped trying to talk to me because she tried that at a previous event. Where she was like physically following me, trying to talk to me. And I was so uncomfortable. I just kept engaging other people in conversation to be like, oh, please pretend you're busy with me so she doesn't approach us. Because, of course, she doesn't want to talk about it in front of other people, right? She's looking for a moment where I'm alone. So I just made sure to not be alone. But, of course, that was stressful as well. That was a family funeral, by the way. So I had to go. Well, I wanted to go because I loved the person who passed away. But eventually she did catch me alone at the end. And I was like, oh, please, this is a... First of all, I was angry. Like, this is a funeral. Can you stop making this about yourself? Like, just fuck off. Just leave me alone. But I didn't say it like that. It was like, oh, please, just unblock me. Please, just talk to me. Tell me everything I did wrong. I'm going to be better, whatever. And then she keeps doing this thing. That's a thing she did a couple times where she made up a fake reason why I'm not talking to her. I think maybe to justify it in her head. So she's like, oh, Monika, I know you're not talking to her because I wasn't respecting your sexuality, but I changed now. I'm better now. And I'm like, that's not the reason, and you know it. I'm not talking to you because of the abuse. And the not accepting of my sexuality is like, yeah, that sucks, but that's like a drop in a lake. And then I just said it like straight up. And she got really silly. Like she was feeling very uncomfortable, looking very uncomfortable, and she walked away. So I think she also has this narrative in her head where she blames something else. You know, like, oh, it's not my fault because I was raised in a Catholic country to be homophobic. So it's not my fault I'm homophobic.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's not my fault my daughter's not talking to me. Maybe it's something like that. That was
like
never...
inner narrative,
Yes.
like the story that she tells herself about who she is and how everyone, like, that's wow,
Yes.
that's really interesting, and just continuously keep shifting away from the fact that you abused your children.
Yes. She just keeps refusing it. It's so bad. And then sometime my sister tried to tell her that again on the chat, because again, my sister is in contact with her, right? And she will send me screenshot if something bad happens. And she still keeps denying it. She's like, I'm sorry you believe that's what happened. Like,
oh, classic. Wow. Holy shit. Oh God. Wow.
Oh my God. Crazy.
Oh, like cringe.
Cringe, I know.
God.
Okay, now I'm gonna let you ask some questions.
Yeah, no, and you actually you touched on some things. I collected some questions from some listeners, so like members of my community, and I let them know that I was going to be speaking to you, so I have a couple like listener questions. And you
that's
actually
lovely, from like your Patreon.
Yeah, or like my Discord as well. Like I have a Discord server, so like there, you know, some listeners in there, and we have like a mental health chat, and I just kind of said like, hey, I'm going to be talking to Monika, like, and you know, here's some of the things that we're going to be covering. Does anybody have any questions? And you've touched on like a couple of them. One of the questions was from somebody who is starting to navigate this like no contact situation in their own life, and they were asking, how do you navigate keeping connection with people, specifically in your family, who are still in contact with your mother?
Yes, it was hard at first, but basically I'm a very, well, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I'm a very like peaceful person. I don't want to cause drama. So even from this very beginning, I was like, when I was telling everybody my story, everybody in the family, I was like, well, I'm not expecting you to do anything about it, though. I'm not expecting you to cut her off or to tell her off. I just want you to understand why I'm not talking to her. So most people were not emotionally invested enough to care about the fact that I don't talk to my mother. So they were fine. They were like, oh, yeah, you do you. It's perfectly fine. Some people did pull the flying monkeys, like, oh, but she's your mother, you know, especially the older people. But then I just ended up telling them again and again, like, it's not even about the past, it's about the future. I want to protect my future self from the next trauma that she would definitely cause me. Because that's the thing, she's still toxic, she's still bad. If I let her back into my life, she's going to traumatize me again. And I've had enough. So please don't make me let her back in. Why do you wish for me to get hurt again? And eventually, slowly, they mostly got it.
Well said. And that actually answers the next question, which was, how do you handle questions from family members about your decision?
Yes. I've just been honest with most of them. Yeah.
And then the other one that you kind of touched on a bit with you talking about the reunion and the funeral was, how do you handle family events in general?
Yes. So the thing is, I only started handling them last year. So for the first 2 years, I just cut her off completely. I just stopped going for Christmas. Any family function, I wasn't there. I just did everything I could to never meet her. But then third year, I was ready to start going back, missing the rest of my family. So yeah, I did touch upon it. I just think, well, if it's a big enough group, so I still don't go home for Christmas because there's only like 15 people there and it's her house. So I wouldn't feel comfortable because again, it's the same house. And also there's not enough people for me to feel like sheltered. But if it's a bigger event with like 30 plus people, then I feel like, okay, she's not bad enough to want to talk about it in front of everyone. If I just surround myself with people all the time, and I even had a friend with my cousin's wife. She's in on the situation, and at the funeral I was like, oh please get closer to me and make it seem like we're talking because my mother is looking at me again. Let's make it seem like we're busy and she cannot approach, like I'm not approachable. So she played along. Well, in the end it didn't work, but it worked for most of the time. And then I just hope that she's normal enough to not start wailing on top of the tables that I'm ignoring her.
Yeah. Do you think having those years of gap before you rejoined like family events and things, like, do you think that really helped kind of set the stage for you eventually returning? Do you think it would have been harder to to not have that time and distance and just like continue and just be like, we're not talking anymore. I'm still here.
Yes. Oh, yes. I think it will be harder because for one thing, I think if other family members saw us together like a month later, they would assume everything is fine.
Great point.
And they would double down on me to be like, well, if everything's fine, if you're still attending family events, just talk to her.
Really great point.
I think that those 2 years helped people understand actually Monika is serious. Actually, she really doesn't want to talk to her. So from that point of view, I think that was good. And also, well, for my own mental health, I just couldn't stand looking at her. So I just preferred to feel lonely and miss out on family parties. And at that time helped me like put things in order in my head. And of course, because after the big event, I started talking about it. I talked about it to all my friends, all my family. And the more I talked about it, the better I felt about it. I did a bit of therapy as well. And I think after 2 years, I just gained strength to go back.
I'm glad you took that time to yourself and like just didn't, shove it back in the closet for yourself and just really took the time to process, get some space. It's incredible that you immediately, like after that happens, like made that healthy decision to go no contact for yourself.
To be fair, I have to admit it's easier for me because I live abroad and the rest of my family is in Poland. So there's a physical barrier of like, I only visit on my terms. I'm the one buying flights. I'm the one deciding where I'm sleeping over. So whenever I plan to come to Poland, I just reach out to my family members I like and my friends. And I'm like, hey, can I sleep at your place between Monday and Tuesday? And I plan my whole sleeping situation before I even go to Poland. So I just don't give her a chance to find me.
Yeah. Which, and there's some advice kind of woven into that is if somebody is considering going no contact is like, how much separation can you possibly get for yourself? Like not, like not to say that everyone can move to a different country in order to make it happen for themselves, but how many like degrees of just separating control and access can you possibly give yourself? Like, any distance that might make it easier to kind of like disrupt access.
Yes. And I personally, of course, I'm no professional, but I would advise people to do what I did and be honest with the rest of the family. Just don't sugarcoat it. Just say, she's a bad person. I don't love her. She brings nothing positive in my life and she will traumatize me again. So please don't force me to see her.
Yeah. No, and I like that you framed it that way for other people because I think it does kind of make them think about what they're actually asking. Like you're asking me to hurt, to be hurt, to have more harm caused, to experience more pain. Like why, if you care about me, why would you ask that? So what can you tell me about your healing journey or what that's looked like for you moving forward?
So it is pretty hard to me because somehow I have this really strong sense of I cannot let people know I'm weak, therefore I must deal with everything myself. Even though I know I said now that I'm talking to friends and all that, but for a long part of my life it was like that. So I think because I was so self-sufficient as a child as well, because I had to be, because my mother was not a good parent, Now I end up feeling like, oh, I have to deal with my problems myself. So that ended up backfiring when I had like a really big breakdown, and I did also struggle with suicidal thoughts sometimes. And so it got bad at some point, but my main clutch is my friends. I'm lucky that I have some really close long-term friends that I can say, message them like, oh, I'm feeling so bad right now. Can I call you today? It doesn't have to be now, but can I call you tonight? I just want to, vent. And most of the time they'll agree. That's been my biggest clutch, my social life. And then eventually I did end up doing a bit of therapy. That was a year ago when I had the depression that made me quit my job. Then my work paid for like 8 therapy sessions online. So it wasn't like a long therapy, but I did find it very helpful because she gave me some really good general advice on how to be less strict with myself, less of a perfectionist, put myself first. So, for example, some really good advice she told me, because I do struggle with wanting to be perfect, right? I'm sure it comes from the childhood because I had to be the perfect daughter, and now I have to be a perfect, employee or whatever. But she gave me a really good advice. She said, Monika, if you imagine like a circle containing all the people you know, all the people you have ever met, how many people of those do you actually care about? Only maybe like a small circle inside, right? People who are your closest friends and family. So whenever you think about what are people going to say about my decisions, you should only be concerned with what this group says. Not what your boss says, not what your neighbor says or your acquaintance. Like, it doesn't matter if my boss thinks I'm lazy because I just quit the job from one day to another. It matters that my friend will tell me, okay, your mental health was bad and I'm glad you quit your job. So that really helped me put things into perspective. And another really good advice she gave me, which I still use to this day, very commonly, she gave me a good advice saying, well, if you imagine a school essay, if you scored 80% on a school essay, you would do a great job. That's a great mark. Therefore, you should also apply that to your everyday life. You don't have to do things 100% perfectly. Whenever you make a mistake and you feel bad about it, just say to yourself, well, actually, I got this like 95% wrong, so I have nothing to feel bad about. This is a passing grade. So I'm actually using that quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's true, because I do end up like making one small mistake and then obsessing about it for the rest of the day. I also have internalized, she helped me realize I have an internalized bad parent, like my mother, who repeats the things that my mother used to say to me. So I do a task, I make one little mistake, and all I can think about is like, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm so worthless, I'm so lazy, whatever, my boss is going to be angry, So she helped me understand that that's my internal parent speaking, because that's how my mother used to speak to me. That's how I speak to myself now. So I've tried, I know it's silly, maybe a little bit cringe, but actually I'll tell you something I haven't said to anyone before, but it's fine to put it on the podcast. I chosen a fictional mother from a series I really like, and I tried to internalize her as a good mother instead.
I love that.
So I know it's silly, but I'm like, so basically I do something bad. I start calling myself names, and then I'm like, no, what would my good mother say? And then I imagine this wonderful, wonderful character, mother figure from this TV show. And I imagine what she would say to me. And I tell myself those things.
That's such a good idea. I can't even express to you how in love with that like mechanism.
Thank you.
I am blown away by how perfect that is. Are you comfortable sharing like which character it is? Like if that's super personal,
no,
you
that's
don't
cringe.
have to.
That's cringe. I'm not gonna share it.
Whoever it is, like I'm so glad that you did that because that's so incredibly beautiful.
Thank you. I think that was also like my therapist's suggestion, which I was like, yeah, actually, I can just choose a new internal mother because it's my internal life.
Yeah.
I don't have to be mean to myself.
I love that. I love that you mentioned I think it was actually during the pandemic and like during lockdown and just having an incredible amount of just quiet time with myself in my own thoughts that I started recognizing that like the negative self-talk, like that inner voice and separating when it was an internalized version of somebody else that had like put negative things and I had taken over and I started just doing their job for them. And for me, rather than like a bad parent, I identified it as like my internalized mean girl, where I had like mean girls from school, and I just have inner mean girls now in my head telling me shitty things about myself. And every
That
so
really
often
sucks.
something that works for me is when they're, telling me just like you're a piece of shit and like no one likes you and blah blah blah, like shut the fuck up, and like to actually name them and just be like, shut the fuck up, Krista, and to just like to actually just like say their name and just be like, I know who that is
Oh,
and I don't
wow,
appreciate it, and like
wow, that's really impressive. That's really meta. It's like specifically naming the voices in your head. I'm sorry I laughed because it's funny,
No,
but
it's
that's quite
funny, and it
impressive.
feels funny when I do it
Yeah.
too, which isn't a bad thing, so that I'm able to laugh
Mm.
about it. Like, because otherwise,
Yeah,
something that
great.
else that I was doing was I was also trying to bully myself into being nice in my own head, where I was like, why are you
Mm.
talking so shitty to yourself? You should be more positive, and like and was like feeling like a failure, and I'm just like, this is a really vicious cycle, and it is not helpful. And just being, and
Mm.
instead just like noticing when it's happening and just being like, yo, like shut the fuck up, Jessica. Like, I don't appreciate
Yeah,
it. Fuck
that's
off.
so funny. Oh my God. Isn't it crazy how complex human psyche is?
It's
Why do we
crazy. It's
have internal voices?
what a wild ride being a human being.
Exactly.
Oh my
Exactly.
God.
But I'm glad that you found a way to deal with it. That's a really funny way.
Yeah, no, and thank you so much for sharing yours. Like this is the stuff. Like I love this. This is why I love
Mm.
these conversations. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I'm really grateful to the therapist. That was a good match. And even though we only had 8 sessions, because I didn't need any more, I just cried to her for one or two, and then she focused on giving me advice like that, like objective advice you could give to anybody. And I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit, that's like 300 IQ. That's so smart.
And it
Like,
and it works. Like I love the visual that she gave you with the circles as well.
yes,
That's really
it's true.
helpful.
Like, why should you care what your boss thinks about you when you're probably not gonna speak to them in 5 years?
Yeah. Like your
You're probably
boss
never gonna think
truly
about
gives a
them.
shit about you.
Exactly.
Like, let's not do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To care more about what your beloved people think about you.
Yeah.
And they would be on your side.
And if they're not, why is that? Do they deserve
Yeah.
to be in the circle? Like,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I admit I've been lucky, perhaps because I'm extroverted, but I've been lucky in the friendship department. I have so many wonderful friends who helped me through a lot. And now whenever I visit Poland, I stay with them and it's great. I'm very grateful.
I'm so glad that you have friends, and especially like going through depression and struggling with
Mm.
like suicidal issues. Like, I'm so glad that you have like a nice group of supportive friends that you can turn to. Because
Mm.
that can be really hard, and not everybody has that. So I'm so incredibly glad that you do.
Mm. Thank you.
Mm. Can I ask, is there something that got you through the struggle with suicidality?
Well, that was quite a strong struggle, and sometimes it still is. But the main thing that stops me from doing it is, again, my friends, because I think, well, they love me so much, I don't want to hurt them like that.
Mhm.
And one of my friends, especially one of my closest friends, she already lost a close friend, not to suicide, but to sickness. And she's so, of course, she was so traumatized by it. So I'm thinking, well, am I really going to put her through it again, selfishly? So yeah, whenever I think about it, I'm thinking, well, I should not do that to my friends. There are people who
Mhm.
care about me, and I don't want to hurt them in that way. Another
That's
thing to worth mentioning is that, well, that's another thing that the therapy helped me realize, but I should not let myself get carried away with the feelings of the moment because the feelings always pass. So even though I might feel suicidal right now, like before, it would feel like, yes, this is so bad, I should do it. But now I understand, no, tomorrow I'm going to feel differently. Tomorrow I'm going to wonder why was I having those thoughts? Like, this is just like a moment of weakness. And most of the time I'm happy. Most of the time I'm a positive, extroverted, friendly person and quite happy with my life. So now I understand that just because I feel bad right now, it's not going to last. So I just have to wait it out. And tomorrow will be a new day. And I will be glad that I didn't do it.
that's been my experience as well. And I had a very, very, very dark time in my life when I was younger and was institutionalized very briefly. But after climbing out of that, like, every successive like dip or like depression that I'll fall into, it gets just a little bit, not that it's not dark every time it happens, and not that it's not excruciating every time it happens, but it does get just a little bit easier to climb out of that hole every time. And there is just that little bit of faith or knowledge, just having those experiences and knowing that, like, I know how to get out of this hole. It's possible to get out of this hole.
Yes.
This is not forever. Yes. And I know that I have done it before and I'm going to do it again. And I'm probably going to have to do it again. But,
Yes.
but like,
It's part of life, unfortunately.
and yeah, especially like for those of us who, have abuse in the past that are healing from trauma, like, it is a very common thing to struggle with. And thank you for talking about it. I know that it's heavy shit.
Absolutely. Thank you for putting me on the path to speak about the advice that my therapist gave me, because I would probably kick myself in the back if I didn't say it, because I think that's such a good advice. And I hope somebody listening will implement one of those techniques.
I hope so too. Like when you said that about like the mother, like the good mother, I'm so excited for people to hear that, so that they can, like, I'm thrilled, like, and so excited for people to be able to, like, go out there and look and choose their good mom, or their good dad, or whoever they need in their life.
Yes, and it's all fantasy, so it doesn't even have to be a character who's old enough to be your mother. Just choose any fictional character who's kind and sweet and a good friend and a good person, and imagine what they would say to you.
Yeah, I love that. That's so freaking beautiful. Thank you. I know that you just changed so many people's lives, like, with just that advice. Like, that's so good. My God.
That would be great. That would be great. And before we finish, if I can just have one funny comment, if this podcast is going to make anyone go and read my second series, Self-Pity Social Club, please feel free to call my mother names. I'm always happy to read those.
The comments are open. Yeah. Nice.
Yes. I go back and check new comments every once in a while.
So I wanted to ask what role creativity plays in your healing and in your life.
I think I would have been a comic artist regardless of my abuse, so that's not a big thing. However, that second series I started has been very helpful in me putting it to paper and then crying about it, and then I put some sad music in the background, and it helps me work through it. So after a lot of the episodes I drew, I often ended up like crying, but it was like a good cry. And then it's also been helpful because when I put it that way in a comic, and then I sent it to my closest friends or my sister, and now it's easier for them to understand what I'm going through. And so it's easier for them to give me, good advice or respond the correct way. So I think that's quite helpful personally.
I'm really glad that you've been processing it and expressing it in that way, that it's helping you communicate, and it's really beautiful that you've been sharing it with other people as well. And I want to ask, what have you struggled with the most in your healing, or what has been the most challenging for you?
Suicidal ideas. I've always been suicidal. I'm not sure exactly why. I think it's probably from, that internalized bad parent always telling me bad stuff. And for a long time, I had this strong voice inside of me telling me that I'm pathetic and that I'm embarrassing myself by staying alive. And that's why I should kill myself. So that's probably the hardest bit. But I talked to my friends about it, and it's been better.
For me, I think it was around second grade that I first started becoming suicidal. And something that was helpful for me to kind of think was, it's not always necessarily about a desire for death, but a deep desire for change, that just has that is just so massive, especially since coming from childhood, that it had no other context. That it's a desire for change or transformation. Sometimes, And I want to check in. How are you doing?
Sorry, I'm gonna blow my nose.
Yeah,
But it's fine. You don't have to cut out that part of crying. I think that's
no,
good.
it's entirely up to you. And if we want to just like take a second to like move around, that can really help.
Whew, okay. Whew. Yeah, sorry, that one bit just,
You don't have
heavy stuff.
to be sorry, and like thank you for talking about this stuff. And if you want me to cut out crying, like I generally cut out the check-ins because they're personal.
No, I think it's better to leave it in because it's honest, and I just like I want my art to be honest. I want this interview to be honest.
Yeah. And it's honestly like I tend to figure like there are these moments that like the person listening might be crying as well. It's all really heavy stuff, and I just really appreciate like you coming here and talking about heavy shit.
Thank you for having me.
Are you comfortable if I ask a couple more questions?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, where have you found strength and support?
Mostly my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly my friends, definitely. I do have some close family members. I am close to my sister, but I think my friends have been there for me for a long time, and I trust them so deeply, and they care about my well-being.
Queer joy. Where do you find queer joy, and what is that to you?
Oh my God, I love going, because I'm outgoing and clubbing and stuff. I love going to clubs. I love seeing all those like very happy, very colorful people who just want to lift each other up. It's so nice. For example, like I mentioned, I just started a new job. So I'm just meeting new people there. And there's this one man who's, I would say he's queer coded. I don't know for sure he's queer, but he's queer presenting, if you will. And he's just walking sunshine. He just walks around like, hey, how you doing? How you doing today? Oh my God, you're new. I love your necklace. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, thank you for approaching me. Like, I love that. He's so happy. I hope I meet him many more times. So I just find like queer people are more honest because we tend to be more aware of all those issues like this. And so queer people tend to be kinder and more patient because a lot of us have walked through pain. So I think that's also really helpful because whenever I meet a queer person, I know I'm safe. I know they're gonna understand me most of the time. And yeah, I'm really happy there's a big community where I live.
That was really beautifully said. I just like,
thank you.
Oh, how do you handle dates where they know about your comic?
Oh my God, that's a funny question actually, because well, on one hand, it's a bit awkward because if they read all of it, then they know about me much more than I know about them. So it's almost like a parasocial relationship, except we're actually having a date, right? I think it only happened like once or twice where like a fan recognized me on Tinder. that was quite uplifting actually, because my Tinder radius is so small, only 10 miles, and we matched and she was like, oh my God, I love your comics. I was like, yo, what the fuck? But the funny thing is that I was expecting more women to be like, oh, don't put me in your comic. I don't like that. But actually, most women are like, am I in your next comic? Is there a comic about me coming? Mm-hmm. Even though they're all anonymous, they want to be in the comics. So that's quite funny. So
I love that.
I love that, right? And I take care to always make it anonymous, always change the names. But still, then I will like finish the comic and I will send it to her first and say, oh, this is you, by the way. In case like you missed that update, because I don't expect them to follow my Instagram religiously or anything. So yeah, I just send it to them and they find it funny. So that's really positive actually.
I love that because I remember one of the ones that sticks out is the one that you wrote about like someone's like taking off their shirt and there was like a head bonk and they were like, is this gonna be a comic?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
It was so freaking cute.
That did happen for sure. That was actually the woman who recognized me on Tinder. It was the same one.
Oh, I love
so
it.
yeah.
Do you have anything to say to the survivors who are listening?
Yes, I would say please write down the great advice that my therapist gave me because it will apply to most of us. And please find a nice fictional mom. You can do it. And don't give up. Like even though you might be feeling down today, you might not be feeling the same in the future. You will not. The feelings pass, and we should not let feelings dictate extreme actions like suicide.
Thank you so much. Like, Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. I feel great.
I do too. I'm so excited. Like, and thank you. Like, this has been
Yes.
amazing, and I just so appreciate you. And
Thank you. Thank you. You're
you
very
coming
kind.
here.
You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you.
No, and
All
I'm so
right.
excited to share this with other people too, because like you're wonderful,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
thank you. And
Thank
I will
you.
let you get on with the rest of your evening. And I just
Mhm.
so appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Please check episode notes. There you'll find links to Monika's comics and her wonderful book that's available on Amazon. I hope you'll go show her some love and appreciation. Episode notes is also where you can find all my links, so you can check out my website, follow me on social media, subscribe on YouTube, and catch me live on Twitch. I want to remind everyone that with the disruption and changes we've been seeing with social media platforms, this is a good time to make sure you're following creators, organizations, educators, artists, and activists on other platforms in case they are forced to move elsewhere, and so you can have access to anything they might be producing that's being censored by social media. We need to stick together and stay connected. I especially encourage you to support your favorite creators on platforms like Patreon and Substack. If you didn't know, it's free to follow someone on Patreon if you can't afford a subscription. A massive shout out to all my patrons that made today's episode possible. Thank you Emerald, Meadow, Urya, Kathleen, Sadanka, Bryony, and the Gob. Welcome in, Gob. We're so excited to have you with us. Y'all are absolutely incredible, and I am so grateful every single day. It's been especially wonderful getting to know some of you more in Discord and on Twitch streams. Thank you all so much. This is an especially meaningful episode for me, thanking the patrons because of the time gap involved, because this was recorded a year ago, and then so many of you have supported me and stayed with me during the year-plus mental health break that I had to take. So you have supported me all that time waiting for this episode to finally happen, and it means so much to me. Thank you all so much for all of your faith and your support. Thank you for sticking with me. Today's episode was edited and produced by me, Hecate. The music is Your Heart is a Muscle the Size of Your Fist, used with the permission of Ramshackle Glory. Thank you again for listening. This has been Finding Okay. Destroy the Kyriarchy and keep working towards collective liberation. Take care of yourself and take care of each other.
Your heart is a muscle the size of your fist. Keep on loving, keep on fighting, and hold on, and hold on. Hold on for your life.